never seen a more talented trader than the adventurer. Seeing how he navigates the order flow. This is a trader who really took the art of dynamic sizing. And so he had this artistic feel of the market, an artistic feel that you'd almost imagine that only the French can do. Will the market force him what to do next, or will he retire on his own terms?
To feel the market and its volatility and its correlations and navigate it that way is, I mean, it's like on a different planet. It's like expectation shattering, and many people will reject this.
So Bogdan, we're speaking about an incredibly special black swan type of trader. If there was a pin-up boy for the retail trading environment, he would be it. He's a pin-up boy on lifestyle trading. He's a pin-up boy of living a life, traveling on the road, trading from the side of a Mallorcan hill overlooking the beautiful turquoise Mediterranean Ocean, the Balearic Islands, putting on 150 lot contract in oil markets, making over 100K, six-figure P&L, and then closing his laptop, driving to some other secluded beach and enjoying, sangria and paella. Now, he's not the trader that we would train any of our junior traders on. He's not the trader that we would say, this is how you trade. This is the trader that maybe every educational marketing firm will say, this is how you live your life. This is the way, buy my course, because this is the lifestyle of a trader. And we know very well this isn't the lifestyle of a trader. He's an outlier. He's a black swan. My question has always been, is this the type of trader that will be able to do this forever? Is my main question. He's outlasted. I've always thought, well, he's going to crash sometime. And he's always outlasted my kind of cynical view of, does this mean to be a professional trader? But he does come from some interesting backgrounds in being a world-class skier, as well as starting the beginning of his career as a religious student of the markets, sitting on a trading floor. So I want to start from that perspective, very high level. And this is a trader who's also, which we'll also explore in this video today. One of his biggest edges is dynamic sizing.
Yes.
And so if you describe to me who this chapter is for me, it's not for the retail trader, because that's the trap. But who is this chapter for, and how do you see the adventurer?
Indeed. Well, it is in a way for the retail trader. I hope people who have these imitations or Hollywood fueled fantasies or social media fueled fantasies. The reason he's in the book is to show how even among top tier professionals, he is literally a category of one. And he can do that for very specific reasons we'll get into, which is not, you can't replicate it. You can't remodel it. Probably anomaly. I mean, for sure, an anomaly. And we wanted to show that even amongst this, he's the exception to the rule that there is no lifestyle. Imitations, if lifestyle does creep in, that's probably a warning sign, as people will discover with the hero. And, trading requires sacrifices so much. Are you willing to pay the cost and all these things? And that is the question. That is one of the reasons we put the adventurer. But yeah, he is also for, he's also for someone, let's say who do we give this chapter to? We have the adventurer at an interesting place. He was, as he said, reached the darker side of trading where he's obsessive, never leaving the floor, super hardcore as everyone. But he now shedded his love for trading and the markets and his apparent obsession to just trading as a means to an end. And he's very frank about that. And we met him at a time when we were interviewing him back in 2022 in Poland. That
just off the back of a multi-seven-figure year in 2020.
Yes, that, and when we left it open-ended because he does not know where he's going next, and that is the nature of dealing with traders at this level. The reality of it, meaning, and especially in his case, he has gone from material needs to meaning. He has, ascended past paying rent for 2 weeks, meaning he's got to trade no matter what, no matter how much he hates whatever comes next, he's got to trade it. He now has a meaning crisis, and what do I do? He has many desires of, he grew up in the Alps in France, skiing, wants to be reading all day, wants to pursue other things. And this is one of the big exits for traders. They achieved so much, they can do so much. The question, as we said in other chapters, the questions of why am I still doing this add up? Your reason to stay has now diminished. And that's just the reality of dealing with traders. And so little is written about this, of course, because very few people reach that kind of level. But we still want to write about it because there will be traders now and in the future who will face these kind of issues.
A crisis of meaning.
A crisis of meaning. They've ascended past the crisis of material, and that is where we meet the adventurer.
And the adventurer, just recording back to, I want to start with his skiing. So this is a trader that grew up in the most beautiful mountain in the French Alps. Family were all skiers. He became a junior Olympic on the junior Olympic French giant slalom giant downhill slalom, if I have that correct. Received a scholarship to the USA. And this is a trader where when we questioned him and we asked him, what's it like, when you take a big hit or a loss, how do you drag that into the next trading session? His ability to wipe the slate clean is pretty much second to none. I'd say the only other trader who has that ability so quickly and so fast is potentially the Sphinx, of how he brushes a loss off, how he doesn't let it drag into the next session. And what is magical about his upbringing is you can have an accidental upbringing that dovetail into the profession that you're choosing. And so in this instance of him going from ski town to ski village across Europe, driving many hours for one race, the pop out of the gates doesn't happen, and then he fails at the first turn, and then pack your skis, drive another 6-7 hours to the next peak mountain. You have to build unbelievable levels of resilience as a downhill skier in that space. And so all of that upbringing from a very young age was priming him to be able to be a trader on how to digest losses. Because that skill, that ability, that a learned skill too, that ability to reframe a loss and not let it carry through to the next day when an opportunity sets up big and you being hesitant, or when the alternative is the opportunity sets are less, but you're trying to make money back from the prior day, you're always carrying this emotional inertia into your next trading session. So he was groomed very much like the engineer was groomed on process with his father teaching him, kicking on the most important, most popular sport in New Zealand, being rugby. Very process orientated, almost Dan Carter-like. And this is where sometimes your upbringing can actually get you ready for a certain profession. That spare part. And so his skiing spare part was powerful in his ability to move on from a loss. And I've seen it. I've seen it where he's taken a hit the previous day and he can take on it. There's opportunities the next day. He will take on that risk with forgetting the previous day. And so the adventurer starting out with a solid foundation, his development, his learning, is also a trader that now it's the question of what to next. How do I move on next? And what is your perspective of his background, his development as a trader? And when you sat with him and he was answering these questions, what feeling did you get with his love towards trading?
Very interesting, Alex. I think he was, and he may still be, and may he correct me if I'm wrong, someone who has deep unresolved feelings about what he wants to do with trading. He has someone who has complete choice of how far he wants to go in trading. This is what's so interesting. I think he's one of the very few people that have truly has, like he said with the ski racing, or you said about his ski racing in the book, that in ski racing, he went as far as he could, but in trading, it's a question of how far is he willing to go. And very few people have that opportunity set with trading. And I think it was just this contradiction of understanding how far he wants to go in trading. I think what underpins all of this, and it's funny because what the adventurer was saying was that his key takeaway in the chapter and what he emphasized most is the power and the importance of perception. He was very acutely aware, but I also found the man struggling with the perception of how he sees himself within the markets, of what he wants from the markets. And he is someone who eventually formed a plan B and a plan C and a plan D. And the market will give you all those things if your plan A is to trade and you even entertain a plan B. And that is the question. Will he be able to navigate that? Will he maybe not want to and move beyond it? And that is what we come back to, again, one more step back, Alex. Sport, in the case of both the engineer and in case of the adventurer. In fact, even in the case of the warrior, because he grew up playing for the Cypriot under-18.
national
He
team.
wanted to become a footballer when he was in his younger days. Quote unquote, the adventure said, it teaches you how to lose. And I think everyone who's played sport at any level will understand that very explicitly. But what is learning how to lose? Another element of perception. That is why the adventurer, if we transmute his entire chapter into one word, it is the power of perception. Both on an individual trade level, as some people will be more familiar. But again, how do you perceive your entire career at these moments in time where, again, you can read every trading psychology book in the world to teach you all about perception and psychology about how to handle individual trades. But when it really comes down to it, there's moments where you make critical career decisions. It is all about perception. You might make that career decision based off the last 3 months of experience, which could be wildly different to how you would have seen yourself 3 months ago or 3 years ago, or how you would see yourself in 3 years from now, should you stick with it and should you evolve and change and so on. And again, perception is what makes him as a trader, his ability to wipe losses away, the way he can navigate the order flow through dynamic sizing, which we'll talk about, and what will be ultimately the final outcome of where he wants to go next. It all boils down to perception. So that is the key word of this video and his chapter.
If you're enjoying this discussion about the adventurer, one of the traders in Traders of Our Time, and you want to go deeper, head over to tradersofourtime.com to sign up and get Chapter 1 for free. You'll stay in the loop with exclusive content, insights, and updates. And you'll be among the first to read the book when it launches on March 27, 2025. With regards to, we were speaking about dynamic sizing. You just introduced those two words. The adventurer for Atlas or Mario, the individual who holds entire infrastructure above his shoulders.
The so-called risk manager, but he's many more things than just calling him risk manager, but yes.
He's the modern day risk manager.
Yes.
And has always felt that and seen and observed in the very early days when he started, he thought he'd never seen a more talented trader than the adventurer. Mm-hmm. Seeing how he navigates the order flow, the price ladder. This is a trader who can be offside, so the market moving against him for a prolonged period of time, 100 ticks or pips, however you want to describe it, losing money, and then the market just pulls back by a couple of ticks, he puts in his max size, and he's up on the day.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is a trader who really took the art of dynamic sizing, almost an outright trader with some type of spreaders mentality infused into him. And a trader too that you would never quite know why he's trading what. And so he had this artistic feel of the market, an artistic feel that you'd almost imagine that only the French can do. Because I've seen this type of trader quite a few times. We have one of our head mentors and the mentor for our top elite coaches, Eric Zhu, who also French background, and I've never seen more creative type traders. They truly express through their trained observation and then operating with their gut. And it's something that's not templated. It's a true expression of self. And what's fascinating with the adventure is that journey now of what to do next. Will the market force him what to do next, or will he retire on his own terms? Mm-hmm. And that's going to be the interesting question. And maybe Traders of the Time will be able to explore that. And the adventurer now is that trader that I almost feel, and we have debates, him and I, on this. You're one of the most talented traders that I've seen in 10 years and 20 years. If you were on the floor, you could have been making 10, 20 million.
More talented than the warrior?
It's close.
Because here's a very interesting thing, Alex, and apologies for the little segue. The important thing with the adventure of what we explore is this idea of talent and this idea of dealing with something that's very undefinable. When you're writing about a book, about trading in the sense of guiding careers and people, how do you deal with the T word? Talent is very difficult. It's undefinable. We can acknowledge it and say it's a factor. Although, obviously we have seen time and again that the process makes the trader as opposed to being touched by the gods. Mm-hmm. But you might be also touched by the gods, which the adventurer is, as partly the warrior also is. And being touched by the gods means that whatever the hell you do, you connect all the dots in all the spare parts in your special way. You jerry-rig the damn thing, slap some special sauce on it, and it just somehow works,
the talent is generally a clutch. I mean, is a handicap. What I've seen in our space, talent can be a huge handicap. Those with talent and a committed and a wholehearted bloody mindedness like the warrior is the manifestation of an 8-figure trader.
And the clutch becomes a time bomb should that talent lead to instant success as a junior trader. We've seen that a lot.
And the adventurer in the early parts of his career, I think, was up on accounts and drawing money from month 4. So he's only felt positive P&L. He's only felt, and so the moment he faces friction now is how he deals with that, how he defines himself. And I suppose with more variance in his P&L, there's going to be the test of how you decipher those emotions. But that talent, and Rafael Nadal speaks about this, it doesn't matter how talented, if you did this or if you did that, you have to have everything. He's made money. He's the Trump of his town in Poland. He's accumulator of property assets. And so where to next? And how will he deal with his trading? But he had such a great foundational start. And this chapter does also illustrate that he had the same common denominator of all the other traders at the beginning of being full-blooded into this process. What would be interesting with this trader, if we were to do a thought experiment, is if he never made money in the first 2 years, the engineer, like the hero, like most, how would he have digested that?
Truly unknown, Alex. I think in a way, I would want to, like we've seen with many people, I think those who've had, like we said with the Razor, those who took a very long time to even get onto a trading floor, forged a very unique trader. And for those who then had a very rough ride, like most of them, like the collector, like pretty much everyone with few exceptions, also forges their identity at the time. I do wonder whether the pound of flesh that was extracted from all these traders suffering for so long without financial remuneration meant that they'll stick around for a lot longer to carve out 10 times the pound of flesh from the markets in turn. That is my answer to that question. But again, it's very undefinable. One thing I would like to tie up with all this undefinability, though, is there is method to the madness. And as we mentioned, dynamic sizing, and I'll hit the nail on the head here with it. Dynamic sizing, as opposed to static sizing, 2 concepts we introduce in the book at a very high level, is essentially, but not explicitly, again, the book covers it. If static sizing is an all-in, all-out approach, like the Razor does, and dynamic sizing is scaling up and down your risk, your exposure, your lots in the trade, your clips, and so on, however you want to define it, based on the flows of what's going on, based on the probabilities of the trade now working or not working, is a very difficult skill. It is a high skill ceiling, and the adventurer just navigates it so well. It's his ability. So his weakness, shall we say, Alex, is that he is no specialist in any domain. He's no specialist as a news trader. He's no specialist as a profile user. He's no specialist on the charts, but he uses all those things. To be a specialist in those things means that you can identify periods of low variance, a low set of outcomes. Low variance means within similar situations, you know that there's a high chance of only a few things happening. And if you know that, then you can truly put on the size and stick with it. He doesn't know that because he's no expert in one thing, which means he doesn't know what path he is on, of what outcome it will happen to be, but he can navigate it through sizing, meaning that if he seemingly is on the path of this trade is not working, he'll be sized in very little risk. If he suddenly now the tides of fortune have changed in the trade for whatever reason, he will then scale up very, very quickly and very aggressively. So he can counter his ability to not spot low variance by having very, very dynamic, a very good pronounceability and dynamic sizing, which not all traders can do. Truly not all can do. Even that very top tier high level traders do not size them dynamically. And this is one thing we discussed, and I'd like to mention here as a key takeaway. Everyone wants or starts being dynamic, often misapply dynamic sizing in trades, which should only ever be static. And I think a lot of people think they can do perhaps more work, or they want the glory and the drama of being in these crazy flow trades, which require a lot of dynamic sizing when it's not suited for them. Dynamic sizing is another burden. It is a very difficult burden to bear. Again, the burden of strategy. What can you shoulder? Not many people can. They can lose themselves very easily in that storm, which is to be brutally, physically exposed to the market at all times, constantly, which is why the adventurer, like the warrior, they're both very animated, loud people. They can navigate their emotions and we even posit in the book, we can't know, we don't know, but it's an interesting hypothesis where their ability to navigate their interoceptive ability, their ability to feel their body, gives them a warning sign and perhaps alarm bells to navigate the market flows and size in dynamically. Because the adventurer tried to not be emotional and not be shouting, and he said himself, I tried to stop screaming for a year and it was a disaster. Because he stopped, he tore off a limb, which is the sensory organ of navigating the markets through this very emotive state. You talk about the power of interoception all the time, and you can see it here very easily.
Just to close the point off on dynamic sizing, if you are starting as a junior trader, one of the elements to develop this skill set is that ability to enter the markets, be in the markets, feel the markets, because when you're in the markets, you feel it and you see it significantly more clearly. And so that element of also being across multiple markets, you just expand your chameleon type vision. Those eyes can actually broaden. And dynamic sizing does require consistent being in the market, and he is.
Yes.
He's consistently in the market. So if it's a skill, and we actually trained it on our 6-week program through drills, and how you have to be in the market across. You start with one market, you then increase the discomfort. You're in 2 markets, then in 3 markets, and all of a sudden the brain just starts seeing the interrelationships. And the moment when something feels like it's slowing down, or one correlated market is slowing down. So that element, you can only train it to an acute level if you're consistently in it. And it's very hard if you start in the sim, not training that skill set, and then going live, and now you want to become a dynamic sizer. The leap is too big.
The leap is too big because you weren't thrown in the firing line, in the frying pan, however you want to use that metaphor. And consider this, Alex, in a world which, up until very recently, volatility was only prized from formulas. It was not experienced. Telling this that someone that you got to be in the markets, to be immersed, to feel it, to understand it, to even say to someone that you can have a sixth sense, to develop an organ almost, to feel the market and its volatility and its correlations and navigate it that way is, it's like on a different planet. It's like expectation shattering, and many people will reject this. They will reject it because they'll never want to experience it, and they just think that these kind of things are not possible. But this is central to the adventurer. This is central to the warrior, who are probably the peak expressions, and the Godfather, who are peak expressions of this dynamic sizing. And you can see it now time and again. And the fact that they train themselves for so many years in live markets, in the frying pan, means that when volatility now is an actual thing again, not something you can deduce from formulas, it'll break all your damn formulas, they have now truly reaping what they've sown in terms of skill set development over years of just reps and reps and reps. And this is probably where trading becomes more of an athletic endeavor, a sport, the blood sport, as we always say, where truly it's a thing where you just have to get the reps in and just keep doing it over and over and over again. And it'll pay you much handsomely down the line.
And dynamic sizing is a function of reps. To achieve the skill heights of the adventurer, just thousands of hours and days of just being consistently in, and then that trade sense being amplified.
And it's all about trade sense. Dynamic sizing and understanding this needs a creative faculty, needs the ability to understand that this is now the moment in time where everything changes. That point, to understand that this is now exceptional information I have, and everything I've seen before, it doesn't matter in terms of adhering to rules, that this is the time to really increase size and be dynamic. And that cannot be drawn from systems, cannot be drawn from AI, from algorithms, from sample set thinking. It cannot be. Those were the things that will hold you back in applying things dynamically. And this is why dynamic sizing is the black box that is very much a human domain. In a world, as we said many times throughout these videos, in a world where central banks have killed volatility, all the variables have been reduced to a few. In a static world like that, where everything can be calculated, computing power will reign supreme. Your competitor is your neighborhood server rack, so to speak. But in a multi-variable world where, as we are experiencing now, once again, Trump 2.0 and tariffs, things are flying up and down the page, multiple variables, multiple things, volatility has been unleashed. It is dynamic sizing, it is the flow traders, it is those people who can get in, get stuck in, feel the market, understand where it's going, and we are seeing that I know it. I've seen it many times, but you see these guys do it constantly. It still shatters me every time I see it. I cannot. I mean, I thought I'd be used to it by now, but I'm not.
And just to tie it all up, just some interesting, quirky facts or stats, Axia facts or stats. Perhaps you might not be aware of this. You can tell me if you are. So the Adventurer, and very closely by the Razor, were the first traders at Axia to hit 6-figure days. So the Adventurer did it on an oil trade.
No, indeed, I do know this.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
So they were, and I remember that electrified the London team. What? Who is Poland?
Mm-hmm.
And well, the rest is history. But coming back, just full circle again on the dynamic sizing aspect. If you watch one of the live videos of the Warrior 7-figure trade, you see his mouse dancing across 5 markets that he's managing. It's almost an orchestra, watching a conductor, and it's almost a stuff of beauty, seeing what's going. You almost see you see how the mouse is moving across the ladder, and the mouse is this thinker, and you're watching this thinker navigate. And it's the same with the Adventurer. Their ability, you see how their mouse moves from one market, and they're dynamically managing the size. And that is that train conductor orchestra type of experience, which is beautiful to watch, which again is a function of repetition.
Absolutely.
So just to finish off, the Adventurers chapter, available to read on the 27th of March, 2025. And if you cannot wait until then, there's on tradersofourtime.com. You can go now and download chapter 1 to get a sense of the trading floors, to get a sense of the characters, and the genesis story of Axia, of when many of our beginning traders lost their entire trading accounts and how they resurrected themselves. Chapter 1 is available to download, again, tradersofourtime.com. Thank you, Bogdan, for this incredible experience of speaking of a very special and talented trader being the Adventurer.
Indeed, and may he go on and find his way. Thank you, Alex.